Springfield's Talk 1041. Welcome to the show, everyone. Good Monday morning. My name is Nick Reed. Got a somewhat shortened week, I suppose, in terms of the show itself. Today, tomorrow, Wednesday, we will be in studio, Thanksgiving special programming, and then on Friday, I guess it's just going to be best of. Is that right? A best of show?
That is correct. So I
That
need you to
is
do
correct.
a great show today.
I'll do what I can. I'll try. And Santa's Angels underway. The trees are out and about. I'll just give you the locations now. Greene County Freight. We've got
Crown Power and Equipment.
Crown Power and Equipment. Then Anchor Tactical Supply.
Correct.
A1 Custom Car Care, the Republic location, which it's been a few years since we have been at the Republic location with Santa's Angels. And then Pinnaker there in Republic as well, just up the road from A1. There's the two buildings, the easternmost building, which has some remodeling going on, but there's the pre-owned building and then the non-pre-owned building, I suppose, in terms of purchasing of vehicles. So you can go into that location.
That's a new one, too.
Yes, that is a
location.
new tree location, and I had a nice conversation with a couple of the folks over there, and they were very pleased to be able to help out and help us get these kids with you adopted, if you will, for Christmas gifts this year. When I was putting the tree up Friday at Greene County Freight, they said somebody had already been in there earlier in the morning, looking, because they heard us talking about it, and they were there just to see if the tree was up yet. And as I was putting it up, there was a lady who had, she was asking about it. She wasn't familiar with it, and so she said, well, I'm going to come back because I was in the process of putting it up. They always go very quickly at Greene County Freight.
Yeah, they do.
It's a great location, great listeners there. And, of course, it's very, high traffic as well. That certainly helps when you have the number of people coming through. So if you have any questions about, of course, this is the ornaments on the tree, paper ornaments. These are kids that are in less than ideal, to put it mildly, situations in their lives. Some do have families, but, in the middle of the night, because the parents are drug dealers or some other sort of criminal element, are taken to jail, and these kids are without family. They have no parents at all. Sometimes they are with family at Christmas, but their parents don't buy them gifts for whatever reason. And many of them have never had anyone buy them a gift, let alone ask, what do you want for Christmas? And so part of the way we do this is to ask them, what do you want for Christmas? Because for many of them, again, they've never even been asked that question. And some of these kids are older kids. Imagine being 16, 17 years old and never having somebody say, what do you want for Christmas? And every year coming back from Christmas break in school and all the kids talking about the gifts that they got, and you, again, nothing. And so that's why we do it that way. It takes extra effort in order to get the information. Each of the ornament tags on the tree has the child's first name, age, some of their interest, and then a wish list. And you don't have to buy everything on the wish list. You can, if you want. You can buy additional things. We do ask that you buy at least one thing that is on the list, so that connection is there. That way, that element of someone asking, what do you want for Christmas, and then them actually getting it is something that does happen. But outside of that, you can just use your own discretion on it. And then you bring the gifts here unwrapped. All of the information in terms of the deadline, our address, the hours here at the station are on each of the tags. So you should be able to get that info. And then do we have the info up at
Yes, we
KSGF.com?
do. And the deadline this year is December 17th, which is a Tuesday.
All right. So that is the information. We look forward to all of you, as every year we're able to get this taken care of. And I will tell you out of the gate, if you adopt one or more kids and something happens, you are unable to fulfill the purchasing of the gifts because of unforeseen circumstances, or you just get too busy, please either put the kid back on the tree or just drop it off here, the tag, because we want to make sure that those kids don't find themselves once again being ignored, being forgotten. That's worse than not getting them anything at all. Is asking them, hey, what would you like for Christmas? And then, oops, sorry, someone picked your name, but then did not follow through for you. Their entire lives, many of them. Have been cursed with that very sort of rejection. And so if you do adopt and you run out of time, or you get unforeseen expenses pop up and you're unable to follow through, that happens. 100%, we understand that. But please make sure that we get those kids back either on the tree, or you can just bring it here to the station, tape it to the front door if you need to. And that way we can get all of those kids adopted. Missing anything on that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, how about we get a little news?
And the first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today it'll be partly cloudy with temps falling throughout the day. We'll see a high near 49. Tonight clear with a low around 25. For your Tuesday, sunny skies with a high near 51. And on Wednesday, mostly cloudy with a high near 56.
Streaming live, KSGF.com. There's an interesting poll that was done by CBS, and it notes that most Democrats, now these aren't elected officials, these are Democrat voters. Most Democrats are not motivated to oppose President-elect Donald Trump as he prepares to take office, despite half saying that they feel scared about what he will do as the country's leader, according to this post-election poll published yesterday. Earlier this month, Democrats took the loss to Donald Trump. Of course, over the past few weeks, Trump has begun his transition back to the Oval Office, having previously served as the 45th president. All right, so the CBS News YouGov poll of 2,232 U.S. adults conducted November 19th through 22nd found that a majority of Democrats aren't motivated to oppose Trump's efforts as president, with 10% motivated to support him and 46% saying, they're not motivated to do one thing or another. They're not going to be supportive, and they're not going to be overtly against them either. 44% of Democrats said they are motivated to do things to oppose his efforts. This is Democrats, that they are motivated to do things to oppose his efforts. It's not clear from the poll what that would entail, which that's my big question, but we'll get to that in a moment. The poll margin of error, 2.3%. In the poll write-up, CBS News notes that, quote, there seems to be a sense of exhaustion amongst Democrats. I had, prior to the election, where there was a great deal of concern as to what happens if Trump wins. Now, despite the rewriting of history, there was an attempt to prevent the peaceful transition of power in 2016. The Democrats love to portray January 6th as this, horrific event that was a significant defining moment between Trump supporters and everyone else, where everyone else accepts this peaceful transition of power, while it's Trump supporters that lash out and try to prevent it. 2016, there were riots. There was tremendous amount of damage done to businesses. Police officers were attacked and hospitalized, and it was done on Inauguration Day. And the stated goal, this wasn't a secret, they made it very public, and they said that this was what they were going to do ahead of time to try and prevent Donald Trump from being sworn in as president. So we had a January 6th, 2020, back in 2016, or I guess it would have been 2016, when the swearing in of Trump. And a lot of people, because of that behavior, those that remembered it, and just the way that Democrats were being told, and many of them believing that it was going to be the end of democracy as we know it, plus, the attempt to kill Trump on a couple of different occasions, that we would see all sorts of riots take place if he won. And I had expressed my hope that at least the driving elements behind that will just be exhausted. I equated it to a toddler that kicks and screams and pitches a fit, and at some point they wear themselves out. And this poll seems to indicate that that is just the case. Now, you're still going to have an element of people that are fired up and angry, and frankly, some that just look for reasons to riot. I mean, there are those people, they don't have anything else going on in their lives, and it's fun for them, or it gives them some sort of, in their minds, meaning. They're doing something meaningful. It gives them a purpose. But the 2016, with the huge marches that took place, you had these hundreds of thousands of people showing up, even peacefully, beyond the attempt to prevent Trump from being sworn in. But you had the woman march and a number of those other things. I suspect that we're not going to see that to the degree that we did in 2016, and I think that this poll gives some insight into that, and that is because I think a lot of those Democrats that were whipped into a frenzy that time, you just get exhausted at some point. You get tired of being told that the end of the world as we know it is coming, that this guy's the worst thing in the world, and getting out there and screaming and yelling, combined with the knowledge that this is Trump's final term. And despite the claims by Democrats in the past that if he got elected, he won't ever leave office, he's going to cancel elections. You notice they don't talk about that any longer. They don't continue on with the warnings that, well, we're not going to have a presidential election in 4 years. In fact, they're already, this is pretty humorous, you see the Democrats and the media, which one and the same, they're doing these polls. Last week, they had a poll. All right, you Democrats, who is it that you would like to see as the next nominee? And Kamala Harris was first. It's all meaningless, I mean, at this point in the game. But nonetheless, those polls are put out there, and then there's a lot of discussion about it. You had Tulsi Gabbard, you had Gavin Newsom, you had Pete Buttigieg, you had a few others. But what I find remarkable is, why are they talking about the upcoming presidential election when we've been told that Trump was going to cancel them? We weren't going to have any more elections. That outrage, the sky is falling, the Chicken Little, nonstop, day after day, I believe that for the majority of them, it's worn them out. And I think that that's good for a number of reasons. One, it diminishes the likelihood that they will repeat 2016 and try to prevent the swearing in of Trump, at least to the degree we saw it in 2016. But it also might provide some of these individuals who have gotten themselves whipped into a hysteria a moment to just breathe, relax, and realize that it really isn't that bad. In fact, you might even enjoy life a little bit. Things might get a little easier for you should Trump manage to get done the things that he is aiming to get done as president of the United States. Can you imagine, particularly if you are a small business owner or you are just any American, that for the past 4 years have been just really struggling because every single time you go to the grocery store, it costs more, the rent continues to go up, insurance continues to go up. Can you imagine things actually getting better but not enjoying it? Because you have been conditioned to hate Donald Trump so much you can't even enjoy when things get better in your life. So I see some potential positives out of this CBS YouGov poll showing that there's such a significant number of Democrats that are like, whatever, Trump's president, what are you going to do about it? That sort of surrendering of the hysterical emotions could be positive for those people. Now, as the article indicated here, when you did have, what was the percentage here? 48% of hold on just a moment. There was a percentage of the Democrats who said that they would
It was 46% not motivated to do anything, and then 44% saying they are motivated to do things to oppose his efforts.
Right, and it was noted that really isn't explained what that means, and that's what I don't know. Now, if you're polling elected officials, clearly you understand what that means. But if you're a citizen, you're a Democrat, and you're acting, are you going to do things to actively oppose Donald Trump as, I guess, protesting? I don't know if that's what it is that they're talking about. That wasn't, again, noted in the polling, which seems a little odd to me. That if you're going to ask that question, what is it that you mean? What is it people are planning on doing? And frankly, they may not even know. They're just like, yeah, I'm going to oppose those things. But ultimately, I think that this is a sign that many on the left have worn themselves down, and they themselves are realizing, as much as they hate Trump and maybe even in a sick way want him to be a crazed dictator just so they're validated, are ready to let go of all that. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Vice President Harris has kept a low profile since losing the election. We haven't seen her, have we?
No. Kind of miss those word salads.
Well, in the cackling. Oh, well, there's no cackling going
Or
on.
is no joy.
There's no joy. The joy is gone. On one hand, it makes sense. We think, well, of course she lost. She should go away. But she is still vice president. Oh, we almost forget this, do we? Or maybe I'm the only one. Like, oh yeah, that's right. Biden is president, and Harris is vice president, and they're acting though as if, well, we're not going to be in the White House again, so what do we care?
Well, in all fairness, she wasn't really an active vice president beforehand.
Now, what are you talking about? I guess it just depends on what era of the presidency. There was moments in which, of course, we all know this. She was being given all these responsibilities and all these titles, and we were told how important, significant she was. That was an indicator that Joe Biden really relied on her and felt that she had the ability to carry on all of these great duties, and then she was running for president. We were told that was all our imagination, that was something Republicans made up. You think about just the absurdity looking back. It is there's this, I don't know, a lightness in looking back on some of the things that campaign said and the way that the media presented everything now that Trump won, right? I mean, in the midst of it, it was very frustrating. It was laughable, but at the same time, it was concerning because you hear these things being said, you watch the media, and then if you're like me, you imagine all these millions of Americans that don't know any better, and they believe that stuff. But when you look out at it in retrospect, given that Trump won, some of the stuff you just have to laugh at it and the absurdity of this. I mean, just how, well, that borders are. What Republicans are just making that up. What are you talking about? What are you? None of this makes any sense. And I love that they're still arguing on Bill Maher Friday. Still sitting around arguing over why she lost and claiming that she was a fantastic candidate. There was a back and forth between Donna Brazile and Bill Maher, in which Donna Brazile is claiming that she ran an incredible campaign. And Bill Maher, to a large degree, he's a realist. And he's like, will you people quit saying this? If you think that she ran a great campaign, then you're never going to win again. Because that then is going to be a playbook for future campaign. Well, let's see what people who did a great campaign look like. Okay, well, let's repeat that. And then, of course, the excuse making, well, you have to understand, she only this and that. Okay, fine. You can throw out all these obstacles and all of the uphill battles that she had to fight and the, just the obstacles in her way. But that doesn't mean you have to pretend she ran a fantastic campaign. So she's disappeared. She's on vacation in Hawaii. I guess the beaches there, from what I've never been to Hawaii, but I think it's conventional wisdom. They're nicer than in Delaware. Have less old, senile men sleeping on the beach and losing wrestling matches with folding chairs. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Coming up, Democrats after the Matt Gaetz situation. That's blood in the water. And so it fuels with the withdrawing of his nomination, Matt Gaetz, who now people are saying is sort of hints that he may run for governor of Florida, that the blood's in the water. And all right, we are able to pick some of these people off. Tulsi Gabbard taking a lot of that focus now, and among some of the other cabinet member nominees, she's one that they're really hitting hard at, which tells me that she probably is a good pick. Because the more that the establishment is concerned about these people, the greater sign it is. I worry about the ones in which you have the establishment folks saying, "Oh yeah, no, that seems like a reasonable pick." That's when I get worried.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll have partly cloudy skies with temps falling throughout the day. We'll see a high near 49. Tonight clear with a low around 25. For your Tuesday, sunny with a high near 51. And on Wednesday, mostly cloudy with a high near 56.
Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. The left keeps saying that if Kamala had longer to campaign, she would have won. That's not true. The fact is, the longer she was out there, the longer she was campaigning, the more people got to know her, the less they liked her.
Yeah, remember when she when she first got in, like her numbers really spiked in the polls.
It is this continued effort that the left embarks upon, and that is to really truly live in a world detached from reality. And I know I say that, and many people perceive it as just sort of rhetorical. But I mean it literally. When you look at, you take the politics out of it. You take the Democrat, Republican out of it. Here's a candidate that once she was given the nomination, those first 2 weeks, her poll numbers were very high, relatively speaking, to the rest of the campaign. That's when they were at their highest. And then every single day that went by, they ticked down, they ticked down, they ticked down, they ticked down. To look at that and believe that, well, the key was we just needed to wait for it to tick down a little bit more for her to win, it doesn't make any sense. What on earth, when you look at the trajectory, would make you believe, unless you detach from reality, would make you believe that that is the way to winning? It's like you're running a race, and every lap around the track, you fall 5 meters behind the person ahead of you, and then believing, well, if we just had to run another mile, by gosh, I would have won. No, there's nothing that indicates that's the situation. But Democrats in particular, they're not the only ones, but they really do feed off of this. They rationalize everything. They create this fantasy world, and in their minds, Kamala Harris, when they're talking about it. Now, some of them are realistic about it, but these others, when they start talking about it, in their minds, Kamala Harris was this great candidate. She was wonderful, but it was just, the American people didn't have enough time to get to know her. Like, think about that in the context of, you have a group getting together, and you got a buddy that you bring along, and at first, he goes around, he's very friendly, you're introducing him to everyone at this get-together with mixed friends, and then he's pretty friendly. But then as the evening goes on, he just becomes quite annoying. He becomes he just overshares, he's loud, and every half hour that goes by, more and more people are cutting their eyes at each other, and they're like, man, this guy is annoying. The belief that if the party had just lasted a few more hours, all of a sudden everyone would have loved him. No, that's not how that works. When you recognize the detachment from reality that these people demonstrate in the context of an election, it makes sense that when they run government programs or pass legislation, that it works out poorly because they don't come from a place of reality. And when you put people in positions of authority that that aren't grounded in reality and have no desire to gauge results versus what it is that the results should say versus what they shouldn't say, and that they just ignore the results, or their answer is, well, we just need to keep doing more of what it is that we're doing. That's how we end up with so many failures. Matt Gaetz, it's just tremendous amount of speculation as to, was this the whole point to begin with? I believe that sometimes we look for answers where there really aren't necessarily these plotted answers. There has been so much discussion about whether or not Trump, Matt Gaetz, well, was that done to distract? Was that done in order to make the other nominees, by comparison, look a little less crazy? Was this a smoke and mirrors situation? And oftentimes in politics, that stuff is at play. But then oftentimes in politics, what you have is somebody like Donald Trump that just picks his wish list, dream team. These are the people ideally. I recognize some of them. Matt Gaetz, for example. That's a long shot, but hey, swing for the fences, right? Out of the gate, you put down your wish list, and then some of them don't work out. That, in all likelihood, is the way that all of this is playing out. It's not anything strategically grand as much as just Trump saying, these are my ideal people. All right, let's see what we can get by with here, and then we'll cut our losses where we have to and then move forward. Now, the downside to surrendering, looking at Matt Gaetz and Matt Gaetz' decision to withdraw because he's become a distraction, he says, which he's always been a distraction, good or bad. Even if it is long-term a wise move, the problem with a move like that is it is blood in the water. It signals, aha, there is some weakness here. This idea that because Trump won so overwhelmingly, including the popular vote, that he's going to be able to get whatever he wants. Already we've seen that that's not the case. And so they begin to amp up the rhetoric, amp up the accusations. And part of the for me anyhow, the exhaustion is it's just the same sort of stuff. It isn't even oftentimes based in anything that should be meaningful. It's just the same old records that they get out. And, okay, well, let's see if we can find someone that claims sexual harassment. Let's see if we can find, let's accuse them of being a Russian asset. You guys can't come up with something new. I don't mind having robust debate. I don't mind evaluating, and I think that there should be, to some degree, an evaluation of these people. I think that if you are a Trump supporter, you can look at somebody like an RFK Jr. and a Tulsi Gabbard and any of these other nominees and recognize that they're not perfect individuals, that, these aren't people that are the end-all, be-all for everything, and they are totally and completely infallible, and there's no room for criticism whatsoever. They are people. I mean, most of them are Democrats, incidentally. But you can look at someone and recognize that, yeah, I don't agree with him on this, but this is the job that this individual is being appointed to, and Trump clearly sees that in this position, this person is going to do a good job, and so I'm going to trust him on that. It doesn't mean that I have to pretend that they're amazing at everything in life, that they're absolutely perfect. What we do to ourselves, and I would just encourage you, I've had to sometimes do a little self-check myself. You're like, this person and this, and well, they said this once upon a time, and I stop myself and I say, wait a minute here. Why did I vote Trump? Because I trust him. I trust that he knows what he's doing. Does that mean that I believe everything that he's going to do is absolutely 100% correct? No, of course not. But like anyone you hire for a job, you feel as if they are qualified in order to make things better. They're going to do the job. They're going to raise the level of results. And Donald Trump may pick some individuals that turn out to not be the best pick in the world. But overall, this is where Donald Trump is different than most people who get into these positions in Washington in particular. And that is when he does see that he made a decision that isn't taking him or providing the results that he wants, he replaces that person. He changes it. And I think it would benefit us all to remember that. And we don't necessarily feel as if we have to look at RFK Jr. and defend everything that he's ever said. Well, Tulsi Gabbard said this 5 years ago or that 7 years ago. Okay. I don't have to agree with that. I don't have to defend Tulsi Gabbard as the most incredible person ever who, in every aspect of her political life, has been 100% correct all the time. She could be 100% right. I mean, let's not forget, she was a Bernie Sanders delegate. These are people who are Democrats. And of course, who is it that's turning against them to the greatest degree now? Democrats. You know, it's funny because Democrats love to talk about reaching across the aisle. Oh, you remember Obama was elected president and all that talk about, Lincoln. He's so much like Lincoln. He's willing to bring even people who disagree with him into his cabinet. He's willing to bring in Republicans. Oh, my gosh. He's just like Abraham Lincoln. Bringing in the political opposition because he's so wise. And how wonderful of those Republicans. Those are the sort of Republicans we need in this country. Republicans that are willing to set aside, for the sake of the country, their political allegiances to their party. Putting country above party, right? Wonderful. But what the left, when they talk about reaching across the aisle, when they talk about bipartisanship, what they're really talking about is compliance and complying with them. Because the moment that the door swings the other way, and Donald Trump, whom we're told is a dictator, who doesn't listen to anyone, who is this rigid-minded individual, opens things up, has communication with, and offers positions with Democrats, well, that's the worst thing in the world. And we've got to attack those individuals. We have to destroy their reputations. We have to label them the next Hitler, the next Hitler, the next Hitler, the next Hitler. RFK Jr., the vaccine denier, he is going to bring back polio. He is going to be responsible for the death of millions and millions of children. And Tulsi Gabbard, well, I mean, she clearly is a Russian asset. Just listen to the way that they talk about the people who are doing what it is that they claim that they want, and that is bipartisanship. Reaching across the aisle and working together. A Republican president who would open up his cabinet to diverse ideas, even bringing in Democrats. That's not what they really want, is it? And they're demonstrating that day by day. Coming up, some of the pushback, including Eric Schmidt, of course, the one of the two senators from Missouri, on, I believe it was Meet the Press. Yes, Meet the Press. And the defense of Tulsi Gabbard, you have accusations, among others, Democrat Senator Duckworth of Illinois said that Tulsi Gabbard is compromised. Yes, the Russian asset accusations return. Before we move on to the attacks on Tulsi Gabbard, I just want to go back and talk a bit about the deal with the cabinet picks and the range of reactions to this and what I'm doing, and that is this check of, okay, wait a minute now. We've been arguing that Trump knows what he's doing, so let's let him do what he's going to do. This nitpicking that we're seeing, even, the establishment Republicans, where the Senate acts as if their job is to pick Trump's cabinet members. That's the perspective. This advise and consent approach is not an approach that many of them take. Their approach is, we approve like, it's up to us. Sure, you can provide us a nominee, but ultimately it is our decision. It is not your decision. And that mindset is much different, because then they act as they approach it from, who is it that we want in there? That's not what this is about, nor should it be. And part of it is the constant exhaustion of the Democrats and establishment Republicans just fighting everything that Trump does, everything. And the instinct that I have as an American citizen is, we just let up already. Just let him have can we not nitpick every single little thing? And yes, while we're talking about these, the cabinet position is not a little thing, but the reasons that they will choose to question some of Trump's picks, these are people who put a Supreme Court justice on the bench who could not tell you the definition of a woman. These are people that put Pete Buttigieg in charge of transportation, and his experience, in his own telling, was that in college he rode on a train a couple times. That was his own, that was his given explanation for why he was qualified, because he rode on a train in college. Now they all act as if, well, we really need to comb through all of this. Oh, do we now? And it's because it's Donald Trump. And I don't want anyone, though, to misunderstand that means that everyone should not be critical of these individuals, or again, anoint them as indisputably omnipotent in all ways. You can recognize that there are certain things about some of these individuals that they've said in the past that I don't like, while at the same time saying, but you know what? Trump is the guy that we elected to be president. Trump is now trying to lay the framework for his presidency. I'm going to let him do that. You can disapprove of certain things that cabinet members or cabinet nominees have said in the past, but still be like, but you know what? We'll see. It's his pick. And I wish some of these ignoramuses in the Senate would recognize that. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. A1 Custom Car Care, all of your car care needs, holiday travel. Now, some of you are going to be doing the Thanksgiving drive away, but Christmas definitely perhaps. And even if you are traveling just an hour away, breaking down on Christmas Eve or Thanksgiving morning or the night before Thanksgiving on the side of the road because you threw a belt, it doesn't matter whether you are half an hour away or 4 hours away. That's not convenient. And while some of those circumstances are unavoidable, oftentimes with routine maintenance, you can prevent it from happening. I could tell you, it's amazing as you get older, you learn these things, and the times that I took my vehicle in as a college student to get maintenance done was whenever fluids went dry and something overheated, or a belt was so old and brittle that it broke and it threw it, and you just waited until something went catastrophically wrong to where you couldn't even drive the vehicle. You wise up as you get a little bit older and realize that the cost benefit and the time benefit of taking care of that stuff ahead of time with routine maintenance. A1 Custom Car Care for all of those car care needs. News in 60 seconds. I'm Nick Reed. Springfield's Talk 1041. My name is Nick Reed. Welcome to the show, everyone. Streaming live, KSGF.com, YouTube, YouTuberoo. That is thanks to our good friends at Springfield Wraps as we make our way into the Thanksgiving holiday. And, unlike anti-Trump people who actively are out there trying to get family that, if you are a Trump supporter, you get severed from your family. This is something that, on MSNBC, I know Joy Reid and numerous Democrats have said you should, much like if you're in a cult, cut off family members who do not believe with what you believe. I think that it's probably fair to say that most Trump supporters not only don't feel that way, but would love for family that has going through this horrific time in which they feel it's the end of the world would come for Thanksgiving. And you know what? You don't even have to talk about these things. If all of the anti-Trump people in the world took 3 months off from watching the news and viewing any sort of echo chamber analysis of Donald Trump on social media, I think they would be shocked at how much better their lives were. If I'm one of these therapists that has a waiting list to see anti-Trump people who are emotionally devastated because of the win of Donald Trump, I would say don't watch the news and stay off social media, or at least anything that has to do with politics. Just don't do it. Well, I have to keep up with what's going on. Why? Other than being angry, other than your own emotional reaction, what is going to happen if you are not listening to Rachel Maddow or Noreen Donald or, any of these individuals, or if you're not watching your friends post on social media about all the horrible things Donald Trump is doing? What's going to happen? Do you really think you're going to miss something that is going to cause your life to divert in the wrong direction? Though I'm not a therapist, clearly, that's what I tell every one of my patients to be like, you know what, I'm going to do you a huge favor. Instead of telling you to come back next week, I'm going to tell you to come back in 1 month. You have one job. Do not watch the news. Do not get on social media if your social media is filled with people talking politics, whether it's pro or anti-Trump. Stay away from it. Figure out a way to do it. Well, but that's hard. Listen, you want to get better or not? Do you want to feel better about life? You're paying me. You are coming here. You are paying me in order to tell you how it is that you can get emotionally healthier than you are right now. I'm telling you what to do. And then in 1 month, we'll reevaluate how you're feeling about things. That's what I would do. I'd even make the first one a freebie, because it would only take 5 minutes. Like, okay, that's it. You're done. Well, I just, all my friends on social media, then get off social media. You don't have to be there. There are lots and lots of people that are not on social media. You don't have to do it. Or, you know what? Start up a new one. But only follow people that talk about ducks, puppies, toddlers saying funny things, things that are non-political but just sort of make you smile, make you laugh a little bit. Can you imagine how different? Now, some people are inherently unhappy, and that would not make them a happy person necessarily, but it would at least take away that component of their life that has become a derangement syndrome. And that just, to me, seems like such a no-brainer. If you are in any sort of environment that is causing you angst, causing you emotional despair, remove yourself from the environment. I think we don't do enough of that. Which, incidentally, we're going to talk in that vein. Anthony Blinken, they're wanting answers from him because of these what were the sessions called? They had, after Trump won, these counseling sessions for people at the State Department. You know what? If you have to have a counseling session because you're going to be working for President Donald Trump, then leave the job. You should not be in that job. You should not be in that job. Leave. See ya. Find something else. Not just for the sake of the country, but for your own sanity. Senator Tammy Duckworth, Democrat Illinois, said Sunday on CNN's State of the Union that former Representative Tulsi Gabbard, which is President-elect Donald Trump's pick to lead the intelligence community, is compromised. Of course, there's no evidence provided. You don't have to provide evidence for such things. Host Dana Bash said, let's turn to former Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard and, rip on her for a while. She has promoted, this is Dana Bash, she's promoted Russian propaganda. Your fellow Democrat, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, called her likely a Russian asset. Now, you and Tulsi Gabbard are both veterans. You served with her in the House. What do you think of her? Well, I think she's compromised, she said, without providing evidence. Said, I think by going to Syria and basically backing, a brutal dictator there. I mean, Russian-controlled media called her a Russian asset. Oh. So now we're believing Russian-controlled media? Isn't that ironic? Portraying Tulsi Gabbard of grave concern because she might promote somehow Russia. Yet what is Tammy Duckworth doing on what source is she citing as evidence that Tulsi Gabbard is of concern? She's citing Russian information. Gee, have we been here before? So which is it? This is the contradictory nature of the left. Trying to portray someone with whom they disagree as just a carrier of water for the Russians, spreading Russian information. And does she give her information? From Russian media. Duckworth. So are we supposed to not spread Russian propaganda, or are we supposed to be spreading Russian propaganda? Because Tammy Duckworth is on Meet the Press spreading Russian propaganda. By your own admission. Well, I'm just telling you what Russian media is saying. Oh, are you now? Coming up, I'll play audio from Senator Mullen of Oklahoma, also Senator Schmidt of Missouri, specifically on the Tulsi Gabbard issue, because in some of these fights, Republicans are fighting back, and that is a good thing. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today it'll be partly cloudy with temps falling throughout the day. We'll see a high near 49. Tonight clear with a low around 25. For your Tuesday, sunny skies with a high near 51. And on Wednesday, mostly cloudy with a high near 56.
Sarah Myers, everyone.
Hey, did you put your Christmas lights up over the weekend?
No, not yet, though the weather would have been perfect.
Yeah, it was, and I think that
It almost seemed too warm.
I know, well, I think it's going downhill from here, folks. But
Yeah, I think the high Thanksgiving's 40, 41.
yeah, it's just going to get colder and colder. So I put my lights up, but I have like railing all around my front porch, so I just wrapped them around the rails. I didn't go all out. Like some people do, they, do the roof all around the gutters. If that is you, and you did your lights over the weekend, and if you noticed any issues on your roof
like
or
you
your
fell
gutters,
through it.
yeah, that's a big no-no. Now is the time to address those issues before we do move into winter. And I want to recommend Josh and his team over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, the current wait time, I think Josh said it's about 2 weeks or so. So now is a really good time to go ahead and
I think
schedule.
that was for a new roof. Yeah.
So it is a good time to schedule that free roof inspection. They'll come out, they'll take photos and videos, and then they'll get you on that schedule. If it is time to do repairs or maybe even that whole new roof replacement, it is as simple as that. And they'll work through that insurance process as well. So if it is time to have the Pyramid Roofing Company team out at your home, go ahead and give Josh a call today. And as always, you can find all of that contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
All right. One of the greatest sins, of course, one can commit if he or she is a Democrat is to work across the aisle. Working across the aisle only goes one way. Democrats, when they talk about getting together, unity, compromise, reaching across the aisle, they actually mean comply. Comply with them, do what they want. Because anytime somebody like a Tulsi Gabbard or FK Jr. or a Joe Rogan or Elon Musk, these traditional Democrats do reach across the aisle, then they get demonized and destroyed in the public. They are made a lesson of. Tulsi Gabbard, the most recent, among others, Senator Tammy Duckworth, accusing her of being a Russian asset and spreading Russian information while citing Russian information herself. She's ironically, Duckworth is using reports from Russian media in order to accuse Tulsi Gabbard of being somebody who spreads Russian information without even recognizing the irony of it. Among others, the senator from Oklahoma, Mullen, talking on that point.
You got to keep in mind that Tulsi Gabbard is still Lieutenant Colonel in the United States Army. She commands the reserve unit here in Oklahoma and Missouri. If she was compromised, if she wasn't able to pass a background check, if she wasn't able to do her job, she still wouldn't be in the Army. And so Tammy is absolutely dead wrong on this, and she should retract those words. That's the most dangerous thing she could say, is that a United States Lieutenant Colonel in the United States Army is compromised and is an asset of Russia. It's actually sad to hear her say that. When I heard her say that, I thought, I wonder if this is political, because she's upset that Tulsi Gabbard left the Democrat Party because they went woke. Because I know they actually got along when they were in the House, and she knows Tulsi Gabbard. She knows her heart. She has a heart to serve. And so I think that's probably more politically motivated than it has any truth to it at all.
On Meet the Press, Eric Schmidt also asked about Tulsi Gabbard.
Let's talk about the pick of Tulsi Gabbard for DNI. Here is what the former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley had to say about Tulsi Gabbard. Take a look.
This is not a place for a Russian, Iranian, Syrian, Chinese sympathizer. DNI has to analyze real threats. Are we comfortable with someone like that at the top of our national intelligence agencies?
So, Senator, what say you? Are you comfortable? Will you vote for Tulsi Gabbard?
I think it's really interesting that anybody that has a different political view now is being cast as a Russian asset. It's totally ridiculous. Tulsi Gabbard has served in our military. She served as a congresswoman from Hawaii, as a Democrat, I might add, part of this unique coalition that President Trump has put together and won and got that mandate. But I think it's insulting. It's a slur, quite frankly. There's no evidence that she's a asset of another country. She served this country honorably. And by the way, she cares deeply about our Constitution and civil liberties and making sure people aren't being targeted by these intelligence agencies. So again, I think think this is a reformer who can come in, who maybe is not part of the same Washington cocktail party circuit that people in the intel community are used to, but maybe that's exactly what we need right now. President Trump listened to the American people when they screamed about these issues. They want to be heard. They feel like Washington's broken, and I think bringing somebody in like Tulsi Gabbard is a welcome news.
All right, that is Eric Schmidt. There's a couple of things about all this that I think it would serve us well to keep in mind. Number one, and to somewhat Eric Schmidt's point there, do we really believe that there's going to be any reasonable nominee appointed by Trump that the media isn't going to rip apart? Of course they are. When it comes to Russia and this constant hand-wringing over Russia, not that Russia isn't some reason for concern, but let's not forget the only reason, there is only one reason that we are today told that we should be concerned about Russia or Russian disinformation or Russian assets, and that is because that was something that was made up originally by the Hillary Clinton campaign and then utilized by the FBI and other divisions of the government in order to try to overthrow the Trump presidency. As far back as the 80s, Democrats mocked Republicans, Ronald Reagan in particular, for warning of this then Soviet Union and the concerns of the Soviet Union. You would be hard-pressed to tell who was the bad guy during the Cold War, whether it was Reagan or Gorbachev, if you listen to the media and the Democrats. Ted Kennedy wrote letters to, I believe it was the ambassador of Russia or I think it was somebody in the Politburo. Anyhow, these are letters that would later be disclosed, in which he was attempting to recruit Russians in order to help defeat Ronald Reagan's re-election campaign. Actively, these are official letters from a then-sitting U.S. Senator, Ted Kennedy, asking the Russians to interfere in our elections because they were the good guys. Ronald Reagan was going to cause World War III. When Obama was running for president against George Bush, the foreign policy message was we needed to, with an open hand, not a closed fist, deal with people like Putin. We were the bad guys. So much so, after Obama got elected, he sent Hillary Clinton over as Secretary of State with a reset button on full display at a press conference to demonstrate to the world our apologies for demonizing Russia and how the world would benefit if we were only friendlier with them. This was the Democrat messaging. This was the message in the media. When Obama was running for re-election, of course, he got caught on a hot mic telling Medvedev, be sure to tell Putin, once we get this election out of the way, I'll be freed up to work with him a little more on some things that I can't work with him on while I'm running for re-election. Can you imagine if Trump had said something like that? Then during the presidential debate, Mitt Romney, noting that one of our geopolitical foes on the world stage was Russia, and the Democrats mocked him, led by Obama, telling him the 80s called they wanted their foreign policy back. My entire adult life, up until 2016, was one in which the Democrats and the media would defend Russia. They would mock Republicans for talking about concerns of, at the time, the Soviet Union, and then post-Soviet Union, Russia itself. And then 2016 comes along, and the Hillary Clinton campaign decides to pay someone from a foreign country to come up with a fake dossier in order to make it look as if Russia and Trump were working together to steal the election. And all of a sudden, all of that history was flipped over on its head, and today we continue with these same people, the same media, and the same Democrat Party warning everyone about the dangers of Russia. Russia hasn't changed in that period of time in terms of their ideological approach and their belief system and what it is, whether it was at the time as the Soviet Union or as they are, in fact, arguably on the world stage. We actually had more reasons to fear the Soviet Union than we do Russia today, arguably in some areas. Only one thing changed. And that was that the Hillary Clinton campaign paid someone to create some fake dirt on Trump, and it involved Russia. And so that became the point in which all of a sudden we're supposed to forget history. We're supposed to forget what the Democrats have been telling us. We're supposed to forget that it was the Democrat Party and the media telling us that we needed to be allies with Russia, not enemies. So anytime you hear these people, oh, Tulsi Gabbard, Russian asset, or oh, Russians interfering in our elections. These people, they don't believe this stuff. Russia is, as everything else is with the left, only useful to them in a political context. And if prior to 2016, Russia was a useful tool to use against political opposition by painting Russia as not that bad and just some sort of scare tactic that Republicans were trying to use. Post-2016, turn it upside down. Now Russia is a valuable tool to use against our enemy by claiming that they're the bad guy, not the good guy. With the flip of a switch. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. We do have a traffic update, but a reminder, this Friday we will not be at Scramblers, our traditional day after Thanksgiving. We are not there. And then, as we do every year, the Veterans Heroes Breakfast will be the following Friday. And while that is different than our normal monthly, that is what we do every year. have it on that first Friday in December. So that is what we will be doing once again this year. We got a traffic update. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt.
I feel like I'm at the Ozark Empire Fair.
Yeah! All right, this first alert forecast is sponsored by St. Clair, the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today, we'll see partly cloudy skies with temps falling throughout the day with a high near 49. Tonight, clear with a low around 25. For your Tuesday, sunny skies with a high near 51. And on Wednesday, mostly cloudy with a high near 56.
Well, happy anniversary to Jim Webb, Jim and Valerie.
Happy anniversary.
54 years.
Goodness.
No. Make sure that's correct. 52 years. 52 years. I want to make a couple of other points here as we continue to hear the accusations without evidence that Tulsi Gabbard is some sort of Russian asset. And how I spoke in the last segment that we should remember, at least for my entire adult life, up until 2016, Democrats sided with Russia. Told us that fears of Russia were from the 80s. That was old, worn-out foreign policy. But once Russia could become a tool against Republicans in another way, and that is that they were rigging the election with Donald Trump, then Russia, out of the blue, that was the one thing, it's for political reasons, became evil and scary. And they carry that today. And for the reasons that you heard over the weekend, Tulsi Gabbard, Russian asset. Tulsi Gabbard, Russian asset. You know, this is a woman who has served in our military. What does it say about our military if somebody that so clearly is a Russian asset is allowed to serve? Why has this been allowed to occur all of this time? That doesn't seem to make much sense, does it? Well, you know, she's been a spreader of Russian propaganda. Oh, we want to talk about propaganda? This entire administration's foreign policy dealing with Israel has been the talking points of Hamas, along with the media. Whether it is falsely reporting that the Israelis blew up a hospital, or using a body count that is provided to them from the terrorists. If the definition of being a foreign asset is to repeat information that is information provided by the foreign asset, then Joe Biden is a Hamas asset. Kamala Harris is a Hamas asset. The mainstream media, they're all assets of Hamas, the terrorist organization. Well, see, that's different, of course. Are they also, by their definition, assets of Zelensky? They're not working on behalf of the United States. They're compromised by Zelensky. And aside from propaganda, the real meaningful money that this administration has been responsible for funding Hamas by way of Iran. For these people who run around defending Hamas, using the talking points of Hamas, funding Iran, and then when Trump was president and took out Soleimani, running around criticizing him for that, and they want to claim Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset? Let's sit down and make that list of behavior. Let's sit down and we'll create columns, Tulsi Gabbard and Donald Trump and anyone else that they want to claim as a Russian asset. Jill Stein, throw her in there. They've accused that Green Party presidential candidate of being a Russian asset as well. Because as Eric Schmidt said on Meet the Press, anyone who disagrees with Democrats is a Russian asset. And then let's put down the names of Joe Biden and media people, Democrats, and we'll list all of the things, meaningful things that Tulsi Gabbard has done that makes her a Russian asset. And then we'll start a list of things that have made Joe Biden an asset of Hamas, an asset of Zelensky, an asset of the communist Chinese. Oh, but see, that's different, I'm sure, of course. My hope is that it almost, I think, what really needs to happen is this old Russian asset line that began in 2016. Republicans need to start mocking it. It's one thing, and it's correct to defend against it. But it is such a pathetic, lazy, intellectually dishonest accusation that it almost doesn't even deserve being dignified, but it deserves mockery. Oh, Russian asset, okay. I mean, really, you can't come up with anything else? But this is a Democrat Party that appears incapable of recognizing why it is that they continue to lose the American people. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. There's a lot of concern. I was talking in the first hour about cabinet picks, and conservatives tend to at times worry a bit about cabinet picks and whether or not some of these individuals are going to do what needs to be done. And listen, I understand why that is. Republicans have been told over and over again, oh, don't worry, this is a good pick, and then it turns out to be a disaster. And even Trump in 2016, many of the people that he picked, he tried to have a hybrid of his people and people that he was advised would help him get things done in Washington. Listen, you got to have some of the Washington insiders in order to make things happen, and he bought into that. And so Republican voters have been burned before. They're used to being tricked, if you will, into supporting somebody that turns around, and that really it's just all make-believe. It's a pretend persona in order to convince the American people to throw support behind that individual. And now Trump has said he learned from that. Some of these names still pop up, however, and there are concerns. And one of the individuals that many people had grave concerns about was Mike Rogers for FBI director. This is an individual that many people saw as somebody that was sympathetic to the deep state, fed into the Russian collusion hoax to a degree. Well, the Daily Caller is reporting that President-elect Donald Trump is not considering former Republican Michigan Representative Mike Rogers to lead the FBI, according to senior advisor Dan Scavino. Quote, this is what, according to Scavino, what Trump said, quote, I've never even given it a thought. He posted on November 22nd, just spoke to President Trump regarding Mike Rogers going to the FBI. It's not going to happen. In his own words, I've never even given it a thought, not happening. Recent reports suggested Rogers was a potential candidate to replace Chris Wray, alongside Kash Patel, a former Trump administration official. Other contenders included Acting Commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection Mark Morgan, former U.S. Attorney for St. Louis Jeffrey Jensen, who reviewed Michael Flynn's guilty plea, according to CNN. Rogers met with Trump's transition team at Mar-a-Lago to discuss a potential appointment as FBI director, according to Fox News. Vice President-elect J.D. Vance said in a now-deleted tweet Tuesday that Trump was interviewing candidates to lead the FBI, according to the AP. Quote, this was what Vance had written and evidently is now deleted. I was meeting with Trump to interview multiple positions for our government. I tend to think it's more important to get an FBI director who will dismantle the deep state than it is for Republicans to lose a vote 49-46 rather than 49-45, but that's just me. The tweet was in response to criticism over his absence Monday from a Senate vote which confirmed a Biden nominee to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit, according to the outlet. And that's a whole other thing that has a lot of Republican voters shaking their head, and apparently Trump was very upset as well because you had a number of these extreme radical judges that are getting through because J.D. Vance is down at Mar-a-Lago talking to some of these people. Ted Cruz was with Elon Musk watching a rocket launch. And you kind of almost get this sense with some of these people that, well, we're going to be in charge here, so this stuff doesn't really matter. But it does matter. It makes a huge difference to every single American citizen who ends up in one of those courts. But back to the original point of the Daily Caller piece, any concerns that Mike Rogers might end up as the next FBI director, according to a senior Trump advisor, that is not going to happen. Meanwhile, do you know how old I think Pam Bondi, the Florida Attorney General that he appointed for Attorney General?
Yeah.
I read she's 59 years old. Have you seen her?
No.
Pull her up. She does not look 59 years old. When I first saw her, I thought, well, I don't know. I thought she was younger than 59 years old.
Oh, yeah, she looks great.
Yeah. I think, look up her age. Make sure I'm right on that. I could have sworn
59.
59 years old. Yeah, she does. Must be that Florida sun. AG nominee Pam Bondi has said, and then this was in an interview back, I believe, 2023, that bad prosecutors at the DOJ will be prosecuted and the investigators will be investigated. There's a lot of things about Bondi I don't like. Posted someone on social media. The left will try and spin this as Trump targeting his enemies, but this they do like. And so this is an area in which what needs to happen needs to happen. And having somebody in as Attorney General who recognizes no one is above the law, that is the term. That this Attorney General and that Republicans need to use over and over and over again, because holding people accountable is going to be presented by the media as Trump going after political opposition. And I know, and you know, that what they're going to accuse him of is doing exactly what this administration has done to Trump and his attorneys and his supporters. But of course, it's okay for them to do it. But if Trump does anything that even looks like, even if it's holding people accountable for illegalities, for violating the law, for violating people's civil liberties, that is going to be painted as, well, here is Dictator Trump going after political opposition, trying to turn the Department of Justice into this partisan army of pro-Trump individuals. And I think we need to be honest with ourselves. To a lot of people, that will be a persuasive argument. What the consistent response needs to be is no one is above the law, especially people who are supposed to be enforcing the law. You do not get a free pass. Just because you are anti-Trump does not mean that if you are in the Department of Justice and you violate the law, that is an okay thing. Everyone is treated equally under the law. No one is above the law. That needs to be over and over and over again, because that also is an effective argument. Happens to be true in this instance. Sometimes the truth is effective. The messaging needs to be consistent. It needs to be tethered to the truth, obviously, while worded in a way that resonates with people. And Republicans at the party, let's not kid ourselves. There are going to be establishment Republicans that do not change their ways any more than these left-wing Democrats will change theirs. And while they may not be as outspoken and critical as Donald Trump because of the recognition of his popularity and the impact that he has on the party, they certainly are not going to be allied with him. But those that do have an interest and a recognition of Donald Trump's success being a success for the party and for the American people need to, when this particular, and they're gonna, I'm telling you, this is going to be something that they are going to hammer away with. I mean, it could be one person, one government worker that has been found to violate the law. They'll lose their job, and that is going to be painted as Trump is a dictator. See, we told you so. And the response in unison needs to be no one is above the law. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Bradford Light for your Thanksgiving. Have company over. Keep it out in the garage. Available at area price cutters and Macadoodles. Kansas Territory Brewing Company importing that in this season. It was available at the Springfield Cardinals games, but until the last month or so, not available on the store shelves. But now you can grab it. And that, again, Macadoodles, Price Cutters, it's great to have on reserve. Keep it in that fridge. It's a great go-to, 3.8%, so it's nothing real heavy. It's the sort of beer that has mass appeal. That is Bradford Light from Kansas Territory Brewing Company. Now, a number of you have noted when it comes to Pam Bondi as choice for Attorney General that she has a shaky record when it comes to the Second Amendment. Now, some of my perspective is gut. My gut tells me that Second Amendment violations at the hands of the government, regardless of what her background is not going to be an issue during this administration. I could be proven to be wrong. I don't suspect that this is, I do not see the Trump administration going after Second Amendment rights. I think, frankly, Trump isn't really ideological one way or another, ultimately, like really deep down when it comes to, I think he believes in the right to bear arms, but listen, a lot of Republicans say that, but with, reasonable restrictions. And I suspect that could very well be where ultimately Trump falls. But I believe also that this decision made during the first Trump administration to ban bump stocks and then the Supreme Court saying you can't do that, I suspect that could very well be the end of any sort of moves that a Trump administration would make against Second Amendment rights. Of course, you have some sort of catastrophic event carried out in which firearms are once again in the focus. Would there be some sort of massacre that potentially might change that? Of course. These jobs are busy jobs, and any of them, including the Attorney General, of course, they're massive staffs, but they're still priorities. And I believe that Trump's priority for the Attorney General is to clean up that swamp. And Pam Bondi is one that he has worked closely with. She was on his team during the impeachment. And she has been very vocal about the need for not only those who are in the Department of Justice that have broken laws, the need for them to be held accountable, but go to prison if they broke laws and if they are found guilty of breaking those laws in a court of law. I believe that Trump, while picking this individual, is looking for somebody that he felt would actually do that, because that's his number one priority. And that doesn't, of course, mean that there aren't going to be issues with the Second Amendment coming up with this person as Attorney General. But I just, Trump, I think he sees priorities. Okay, who's going to be the best person for that job? That's my priority, so I'm going to put that person in there. And ultimately, when it comes down to it, regardless of her, as people see, a shaky past when it comes to the Second Amendment, I just don't think that that's going to be an issue any more than abortion is going to be an issue with this upcoming administration. But we'll see. We've all been wrong before. News in 60 seconds. I'm Nick Reed. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I am Nick Reed, and welcome to the show, everyone. There's a new poll out. Scripps News Ipsos poll. Support for mass deportation drops when Americans consider potential consequences. All right, now get ready. Get ready, because we're going to get some insight here as to the effort by the media to prevent deportations. First, I want a great homeloan.com, all of your home loan needs, big, small, anything in between. Maybe you're thinking about investment properties, or perhaps you're going to do what many have done, and you think, oh, I'm going to buy a duplex, live in one side, rent out the other to pay the mortgage. And then once that's paid off, then I can rent out my side, get another one, and then pay for the mortgage from that. And you basically become your own duplex empire. Maybe that's what you want to do. Maybe you're a first-time home buyer, or maybe you're thinking about paying off your house. You don't owe that much on it, maybe $10,000, and somebody died and left you $20,000, and you think maybe I should pay it off. Before you do any of that, utilize the Carricker team and their expertise to provide you any and all information possible so that you can make the most informed decision possible. And then if you do decide you need that home loan or you want refinancing, they're going to help you with that as well. I want a great homeloan.com, because you do. While many Americans support mass deportation of illegal immigrants, approval slips when confronted with the potential impact a new poll. The survey conducted after the November 5th election finds that 52% say that they somewhat or strongly support mass deportation of those in the country illegally. Broken down by party, 85% Republican, 54% independent. I don't see Democrat in there, which I'm sure we probably know where they fall. The results are similar to a Scripps News Ipsos poll in September that showed this as well. The potential fallout, though, from what would result in millions of people currently in the U.S. being removed has an impact on America's approval. In the latest survey, support for deportation drops 15 percentage points to only 38% if it means separating families. While a majority of Republicans, 68%, remain in favor of the policy, only 4 in 10 independents and about 1 in 10 Democrats would still support it if it means separating families. There are some other aspects of this as well. Approval drops nearly 10 points if the policy results in higher prices on goods. But two other economic warnings do little to change America's opinion. Support for mass deportation drops only 4 points if it results in fewer people paying into Social Security and Medicare, and support drops only 5 points if deportations negatively impact the labor market. Now, okay, a couple of things. One, the separate, and this is testing ground. This is the media testing how can we turn the American public against Trump's plan to deport these illegals. And it doesn't surprise me, by the way, the pulling on emotional heartstrings here that you would see when they talk about separating children from their families, that this would, well, now, wait a minute, I don't know about doing that. So what we can expect to see is a narrative that this is going to be separating families and it's going to cause inflation because they know that Americans don't like inflation. Now, the latter of those two, the inflationary component, here's what they will argue. Well, these people do jobs at a lower wage than Americans do, which allows for prices to be suppressed. And if Americans are hired and paid a higher wage, then that is going to cause the cost to go up. And arguably, there is truth to that. But I thought we wanted higher wages for workers in this country. Which is it? The same people who run around talking about we need a living wage, we need a living wage, we need a living wage, we have to raise the living wage. The moment it comes to the issue of illegal immigration, all of a sudden, wages going up is a bad thing. The same people who tell us that raising the minimum wage does not have an impact on wages, the same people who tell us that it's immoral not to pay people more with a living wage, an entry wage, a minimum wage, are going to now start using that issue in the opposite way. Well, now, if we deport these illegals, we're going to have to start paying people more. I thought that was a good thing. When it comes to the issue of separating families, you know how many families are separated because of the current policies? I mean, there's over 300,000 kids that this administration can't even find. Think about the moral compass of the left when it comes to this issue. It is an outrage to them if you have kids and parents, or people who say that they're parents, in a facility, a quote cage as they call it, while a background check is done or a DNA test is done in order to make sure that the kids are actually the kids of the adult that they're with and not just a child that's being sold into sex slavery, that's outrageous to them. But if 300,000 plus kids are lost because they're not with their parents and the government can't tell you where they are, that is perfectly okay. It was revealed last week that some of these kids, our government was pipelining them to a strip joint in Florida, where they were then being farmed out to, I think we can all pretty much guess, people who wanted them for sex. And do you know what the government's response when questioned about this was last week in a hearing? Well, we're not perfect. So kids with their families in so-called cages is outrageous, but kids being farmed out to strip clubs by our government is one of those things that, what are you going to do? The incoming director of Homeland Security was asked some time ago about concerns when it comes to deportation, about separating families, and his answer was simple. We will deport them as a family unit. And that is the answer to this. They will not be separated during deportation. Ultimately, though, there has been no greater proliferation of separation of families than the Biden administration's current policies when it comes to illegal immigration in this country. More families have been separated because of our open borders than ever would have been otherwise. Springfield's Talk 104.1, latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Colorton Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see partly cloudy skies and temps falling throughout the day with a high near 49. Tonight clear with a low around 25. For your Tuesday, sunny skies with a high near 51. And on Wednesday, mostly cloudy with a high near 56.
Coming up next, we'll chat with Congressman Burleson. Traffic update, I'm Nick Reed. Congressman Burleson joining us this morning. Thank you, sir, for being with us. And just like to get your thoughts on how things are playing out, these cabinet picks since we last spoke with you, the drama of Matt Gaetz. He was in, then he was out. There's a focus on, among others, Tulsi Gabbard now. She's a Russian asset if you listen to the media. Your thoughts on how all this is playing out thus far?
Yeah, I think the Democrats are going a little bit too far. I saw that Nikki Haley was calling, and I'm now kind of lumping Nikki Haley in with Democrats,
right.
But it's warranted. She's said that Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian agent, and I'm like, come on, like nobody. This is a person that served her country in the military. She was elected to Congress. This is not a Russian asset. This is what the same kind of garbage that they tried to say about Donald Trump. So I think that you're seeing the deep state is kind of freaking out because Trump might actually stop all of the funding of the military industrial complex and slow that down and stop these forever wars. So and it looks like his picks are underscoring that he means what he said he was going to do on the campaign. I like most of the picks. There's some that give me a little caution. So I really was excited about Matt Gaetz because he was a very strong supporter of the Second Amendment. Mm-hmm. He was the sponsor of the bill to abolish the ATF. I mean, if that gives you an idea.
Right.
But with him being withdrawn, Pam Bodie is, I think she's been a very strong defendant of Trump and all the weaponization. I'm not a huge fan of her Second Amendment record.
Right.
But if we can isolate her, keep her away from regulations related to the Second Amendment, then I think that we'll be fine. And I think that Trump is picking people that he's picking them for the roles that they're supposed to be serving, and it doesn't have concerns about their views on those, on the purview of the role that they've been given. But yeah, I wish we could appoint solid conservatives across the board in every position, but I think that so far he's done a good job.
Well, and with Bondi and a number of people, we talked about it this morning, referenced the Second Amendment stuff, and Republicans have earned the right to be skeptical because of reasons that I think we all know. But I imagine what's happening here is Trump has visions for certain things, and I think Second Amendment issues in terms of just dealing with those in a pro-government manner are as much of an interest as abortion is to him. And so he's not picking someone with that even in mind. It is about clearing out the corruption, dealing with the problems and revamping the Department of Justice so that it operates in the way that it should. And so I suspect that if I'm correct, and that is what he views as needing to be done, Second Amendment isn't something that is on his radar in terms of picking someone.
Yeah, and I agree with that. That's why, while I have a little bit of concern, I think that at the end of the day, she can't make those decisions unilaterally,
right,
and without congressional input, and as well as with the president's approval. So it alleviates a little bit of those concerns.
It's amazing to me that some of these Democrats are doubling down, particularly when it comes to the issue of illegal immigration. And in the midst of having illegals, a lot of which are from Venezuela, raping and murdering Americans, that in some of those very states, you have Democrat governors saying, no, we are going to continue to protect individuals that want to come here. We will provide sanctuary to those who are here illegally. The mayor of Denver is... I talk about it, what sounds like a whack job about how it's going to be Tiananmen Square massacre. That he said he believed that mothers of Colorado are going to come out and get between law enforcement and illegals. And meanwhile, there was just an illegal that was arrested in Denver for accusations of raping a 14-year-old. And it's just, it is amazing. Aside from the political aspect of it, just the humanitarian aspect of it and the defaulting to defend the rapist and the murderers as opposed to the very people that they're elected to represent.
Yeah, and I think defunding these liberal sanctuary cities should be first thing on the list. When they stop getting federal funds, that they'll quickly change their course and change their tune. But this, what's to your point, Colorado, which is the state with the hotel or the apartment complexes that have been completely taken over by Haitians and
the Venezuelans
from Venezuela. Right. This is absurd. This is exactly what people saw in the news. They saw the deep state to try to defend it by saying, well, it wasn't very many apartment complexes. Right. It was just a handful. But at the end of the day, the horror that in America that you can have foreigners, a gang of foreigners completely take over entire apartment complexes is terrifying. And the fact that these guys are going to defend that, I just don't think the American people, and I don't think that they recognize the American people voted Donald Trump in overwhelmingly because they saw how absurd that you've become on these topics. I mean, the left has become on these topics.
We are talking with Congressman Burleson. How easy do you think that it will be if that's the approach? Okay, well, we will cut off federal funding. And I want to just relay a story as a premise for the question. And years and years and years ago, I was having a conversation with a member of Congress, not from this state. And there was an issue. There were I believe it had something to do with seatbelt or drinking and driving laws in Missouri, and there were threats that, well, if it didn't change, then they would cut off funding for interstates or something. I mean, this was 15, 20 years ago, and I was having a conversation with a member of Congress, and he kind of chuckled, and he said, "Yeah, that never happens." He said, even if funding does get cut off, because of a refusal to comply in a certain capacity, Congress always funnels it to them in another way, so it becomes fungible. And I've always remembered that because he acted like that was just a no-brainer. That's how things work. It's posturing. It's for politics. And so I wonder if, for example, you are talking about a state like Colorado, and you have you've got some member of Congress and their constituents and their local law enforcement, and they're picking up the phone saying, you better make sure that we continue to get this funding. How effective can it be to really stop funding from reaching those areas when you have so many interested parties that benefit from getting the funding there?
Yeah, and I'll just kind of thread this needle a little bit, is that it's one thing for a state to say, we're not going to focus on, deporting illegals. We're not going to participate.
Not a priority.
In going and rounding them up. That's one thing, but it's complete other thing to say, we're going to interfere with your effort.
Right. Agreed.
To enforce the law. That would be tantamount to us. So when I was trying to file SAPA, the bill didn't say, the sheriff is supposed to arrest a federal agent who's trying to enforce, a bump stock ban or a pistol, grips ban. This is that is an entirely different act, and it's an aggressive act against the federal government. The proper role, if a state or some liberal community wants to say, well, we just don't have the resources to do this, but we're not going to stop you from coming in and enforcing it. That's the proper role for them to play. But this attitude of, well, we're going to stand in your way, and we're going to do everything we can to thwart your efforts. That's where they've gone too far, and that's when I think that we should absolutely take their funds, not send any money to those communities, and we should. If they're really going to harbor criminals, and then we should prosecute them alongside the criminals.
We are talking with Congressman Burleson. I want to ask you a question, just get your thoughts on it, because I have this feeling about a thing that it's probably inconsequential, but it was just something I was thinking about, and how, Trump, you just think of Trump as being out there. He's very outspoken, throwing barbs, and I know that he's busy, but I get this sense that he is a little quieter now than maybe he was at this point 4 years ago, and I don't know whether that's accurate or not. So I'm sitting here thinking, well, does it just seem that way, or is he taking a different approach? Maybe. I know you don't necessarily have any insight on this, but I just didn't know if there was any talk or recognition that it seems quiet. Trump, I saw him last week on the news, and he was watching a rocket launch with Elon Musk, and so it just seems as, you know what I'm saying, it just seems like he's really behind the scenes, getting things done, taking care of things, but not out there in front of the cameras like Donald Trump usually is, for better or worse. And I don't know whether it's just in my head that it seems that way, or if there is a difference.
You're probably right. I think that these next 6 months are going to be the busiest 6 months of Donald Trump's life, and the most consequential of his life, and maybe of mine, of being a member of Congress. So we've been in, all of us have the understanding that these days leading into January and the first 100 days of the Trump presidency, it's going to be a whirlwind and a flurry. And so I think Trump is going through a lot of meetings. I can imagine his day is completely packed with meetings and planning sessions, getting ready for the first 100 days.
I also wonder, and I kind of hope this is the case, that if after this election Trump has viewed the media as less impacting and consequential, I really began to think this when he met with Joe Scarborough and Mika, and they were like, well, yeah, he was nice and friendly, and and if in the past he was very outwardly antagonistic with the media, and part of me wonders if that's because he did not, when he was president the first time around, and even leading up to this election, he saw them as someone that needed to be battled because they had a huge influence over things. But if after this election and everything they threw at him, I mean, he's Hitler, the end of democracy as we know it, and that did not work, if maybe he is thinking, I don't even need to spar with them. Joe wants to meet Mika. Yeah, sure, whatever. That's fine. I'll make time for him. But if he has less concern with what they're saying about him and feels less compelled to respond.
I think that it's an understanding of reality, and Joe Scarborough has been through this before, so he probably understands the cycle better than most. But the reality is Trump won, and this is his last term, so he doesn't have to worry about pleasing, Joe Scarborough and Mika, and they could scream all day on MSNBC. It's not going to impact his ability to get reelected because he's not running for reelection. He is going to execute in these first 100 days his plan, and this is the way it always is, Nick. Once that president starts entering into year 2 and 3 and 4, they are no longer they no longer have any stick, and so they kind of end up kind of becoming nostalgic, and the way the press views them is nostalgic. Why? Because, and I guarantee you, this is exactly what happened with George W. Bush. If you remember, they were throwing shoes at him, they were calling him Hitler, they were calling him all these horrible things, and then when he was leaving office and Mitt Romney was running, then suddenly George W. Bush was the nice, kind old man who's sadly leaving, and we're really going to miss him. But this Mitt Romney, he's the real Nazi, right? That's what they're going to be doing. I think they're preparing for, we understand there's nothing, the truth is there's nothing they can do at this point to attack Trump and stop his effort.
Right.
So I think that what they're doing is getting their powder dry for to call the next Republican candidate Hitler and a Nazi, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get to the point where we're almost going to want some new horrific dictator to emerge, so there's somebody new to compare Republicans to, because at some point it's like, I mean, come on, we got to get some fresh material here. Congressman Burleson, as always, it's a great pleasure. Sure. Hey, have a great Thanksgiving.
You too, Nick. Are you going to fry a turkey or smoke or
No,
bake?
we talked about, I've never done the frying. I have done the smoking, and we talked about doing that, but I think we've gone back to, we're gonna Morgan will do it in the oven. She's done turkeys before that. I remember one year when I went to lift it up, the bones like fell out of it. It was so incredibly moist and it was delicious. But she said she felt like it wasn't that way last year, so we got a brining kit. We've not done that before. But I am gonna smoke some pork belly burnt ends, and then I do a smoked macaroni,
Cool.
and so we get a little bit of
Okay.
a variety in there with some other
Well,
things.
I'll be
The girl,
over. I'll
yeah,
be coming
yeah,
over, Nick.
the girl child loves deviled eggs. My wife, Morgan's like, that's an Easter thing, but the girl child loves them. And I smoke those, and they're really good too. So yeah. Now, do you fry them? Do you fry the turkey?
I have fried turkeys.
Yeah.
I got a smoker last year, and so I'm planning to smoke a turkey.
Oh, well, I'll be
And
curious to
I'm
see how it
excited.
goes. But
I'll let you
you
know.
guys can swing by. You know where I live. All right. Well, listen. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Nick.
All right, you bet. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Now we're going to go ahead and throw it over to traffic. Apologies, going a bit long with Congressman Burleson. We have weather in a moment. Gonna be cold for Thanksgiving. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see partly cloudy skies and temps falling throughout the day with a high near 49. Tonight clear with a low around 25. For your Tuesday, sunny skies with a high near 51. And on Wednesday, mostly cloudy with a high near 56.
Okay, let's read some of these text messages here. And now I'm done reading them. The Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line 447 KSGF. If you'd like to text in comments, questions, please feel free to do so. Representative Darrell Issa, Republican, California, took aim at Secretary of State Antony Blinken after it was reported that the State Department held therapy sessions for employees who were upset by President-elect Trump's election victory. Quote, I'm concerned the department is catering to federal employees who are personally devastated by the normal functioning of American democracy through the provision of government-funded mental health counseling because Kamala Harris was not elected president of the United States, he said in a letter to Blinken last week. The letter comes after that Free Beacon report earlier in the month that detailed 2 alleged therapy sessions that were held at the State Department after Trump's victory, with sources telling the outlet that one such instance amounted to an information cry session. In another instance, an email went out to agency employees touted a separate insightful webinar where we delve into effective stress management techniques to help you navigate the challenging times after Trump's victory, according to the report. In the letter to Blinken, Issa argued that the reported sessions were disturbing and that nonpartisan government officials should not be suffering a personal meltdown over the results of a free and fair election. While the Republican lawmaker acknowledged that the mental health of the agency's employees was important, he questioned the use of taxpayer dollars to counsel those upset about the election, demanding answers on how many sessions have been conducted, how many more are planned, and how much the sessions cost the department. Issa also raised fears that the sessions could also call into question the willingness of some in the State Department employees to carry out Trump's new vision for the agency. Now, this is where we do have a real problem. What message does this send to the world? One of the acknowledgments that I believe most thinking human beings recognize is that when it comes to dealing with outsiders, outside entities, outside countries with interests that may not be in the best interest of the United States, you want to have a united front. You do not want to put on full display divisions and weaknesses. Now, this obviously is something that if you're going to have these sort of sessions, it's not going to be kept secret, but there is a benefit to appearing as if you are strong as a nation, if you have resolve. What do you think it says to the Chinese or to anyone who looks at the United States, whether they're allies or enemies, when we have a government filled with people that are so fragile, they have to have therapy sessions because the election didn't turn out the way they wanted it to? Demonstrating that level of weakness is not beneficial to the United States. Now, of course, having people with that sort of attitude and mentality, in the minds of the left, they see this as a demonstration of how bad Donald Trump is. He's so bad, people who are experts in their fields have to go into therapy. What they are incapable of recognizing is that this isn't about Trump. It's about those individuals. And if they are so incapable of having a job that in their capacity they are representing the United States, working for the United States government, yet if the person they want in charge isn't the person that gets elected, they fall apart and need help, that person should not be in that position. Well, but you don't understand some people. No, I understand perfectly fine. And this isn't an argument as to whether those people are unhinged, whether their concerns are valid. I'm saying they do not belong in those positions. If you need counseling because you can't handle yourself, because you don't like who the next boss is, then you should not have that job. Not just for the sake of the country, but for your own sake. Leave. Find something that will not cause you to completely emotionally fall apart to the point you need professional help if your boss changes. You know, this isn't a question about taxpayer dollars. This is a question about competency. This is a question about mental stability. And this is a question, to some degree, about the strength and sovereignty of the United States of America. I mean, what country in their right mind wants to project such psychological weakness, such just embarrassing display? This is unfortunately what happens when you somehow convince at least pockets of the culture that being some sort of hysterical victim who cannot handle something that is in opposition to your own belief system, that is a virtue. Being a victim is a virtue. Not a positive thing. Every one of these people should not be in their job. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Wilder RV, end of the year deals, recreational vehicles becoming more affordable, people are realizing. Have a nice family RV with a monthly payment that is even less than a hotel stay for one night. And if you got kids, you're probably going to have 2 hotel rooms, and then you add the taxes and the amenity fees, and some hotels have parking, and all of a sudden, you're twice what a monthly payment on a nice family-sized RV is. Wilder RV, all of your RV needs, whether it is the maintenance, getting ready to put it up for the season, or you want to take advantage of end-of-the-year deals, upgrade, or get yourself into a brand new one for the very first time ever. WilderRV.com at KSGF.com under Nick's endorsements. Bill Maher is obviously, he's extremely left-wing, but there are certain realities that you can be ideologically left-wing, but still in touch with reality. Most left-wingers are not. Bill Maher appears to be one of those individuals. So he may have these fanciful ideas about what policy works versus what policy doesn't work. But when there are realities right in front of his eyes, he does not deny them. And one of the areas in which this brings him into conflict with the Democrat Party is the stuff with gender and, pretending as if males are no different than females when it comes to the issue of strength and agility and sports and so forth. And it just drives him nuts. And particularly when you have people that walk around with some sort of degree that says you passed courses when it comes to science, therefore that means that you are not wrong ever and everything you say is right. This is the expert syndrome. And if COVID showed us anything, it is that the expert syndrome is alive and well. People, they go through, they take their test, they learn what it is that they are told to believe, then they get a certificate, and that means they cannot be questioned. And the thing about the expert syndrome is that it affects even people who are not experts. It infects them. And so you will get people that, elected officials and generally people on the left, though there are some people outside of the left that also suffer from this, that if they're told this person, Fauci, for example, well, he's an expert, so don't question him. That's a disease. And Neil deGrasse Tyson is an individual that he's in a lot of different shows that they'll have about space and science. And he's also a left-wing ideologue. And he uses that at times to try and push his left-wing ideology. And he was on Friday with Bill Maher, and the issue of gender came up between the two. And you had Bill Maher, once again, able to recognize the reality versus somebody like a so-called scientist, Neil Tyson.
Scientific American, the magazine. I remember when it was around when I was
with it. Yeah.
Grew up with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, their editor had to quit. You saw this.
Yeah, I heard about it because she expressed some opinions. Right. Yeah.
Okay, right, sure, but it sure didn't sound scientific. It didn't sound like the person I would want to be running Scientific American.
Okay.
It was a rant on Twitter. Okay, I could read it to you. It's really ugly. I apologize to younger voters that my Gen X is so full of fucking fascists. Okay, I'm not.
Okay, I'm not gasket right there.
I'm not for.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not for canceling anybody on either side.
Yeah.
So But here's what I think is the scandal.
What?
This is in Scientific American.
Yeah.
Less than a year ago. Inequity between male and female athletes is a result not of inherent biological differences between the sexes, but of biases in how they are treated in sports. That's nuts. And it sure ain't scientific, and it's in Scientific American. And that's why the Democrats lost the election. It's true.
Every 20 minutes on your platform, you can come up with another reason why the Democrats lost.
No.
You already have the answer. They lost the election. So anything you say
That's
is
not
why
true.
they did it.
First of all, you don't watch this show, so you don't know. It's okay. Well, you talk as if you do, and you can go. And that's okay. Just don't bullshit me. That's the one thing people can't ever do on the show is bullshit. And that's fine. But I don't say that. I have very good reasons. But engage with the idea here. What I'm asking is, Scientific American is saying basically that the reason why an WNBA team can't beat the Lakers is because of societal bias.
Saying is not Scientific American says that. An editor for Scientific American says that who no longer has the job. So don't indict a 170-year-old magazine because somebody.
Okay, this is called Scientific American, and they're printing something
because
that's
someone enters the cesspool that is social media and then participates in that exchange. So
why can't you just
science?
Can't you just say this is not scientific and Scientific American should do better?
Well, does she still have her job?
No, not because of this. I said the scandal is not her tweet.
Because that was like a year ago, was it? Which one was a year ago?
I think a year ago, women still couldn't beat men in basketball. It wasn't because of society. You don't see a problem.
By the way, long distance swimming, women might actually have the advantage. You can look into that. Yeah.
Maybe long distance swimming.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. I've looked into it. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to file you under part of the problem.
Now, there are a number of things about this exchange, and I don't know if Tyson was confused as to what Maher's premise was, and that was that this editor, Scientific American, didn't get fired because of the posting that she made on social media, or rather, that is why she got fired. It wasn't because of what Bill Maher was reading here, in which there was a piece in Scientific American that argued that the reason, this whole gender bias, if you will, that the reason people are against females being forced to compete against males is because of some sort of societal bias. And Bill Maher's point is that's the reason that this person should have been fired, because of the lack of science in Scientific American. And by the way, Scientific American has been left for a very long time. They have not been science-based for some time. But because they're experts, they are able to masquerade as presenting some sort of scientific basis for the pieces in their magazine. I thought that it was interesting and telling that what you saw was Tyson presented himself as really sort of asking these questions and talking to Bill Maher. But in reality, and Bill Maher kind of got to it, why can you not just say that this is wrong? And the efforts that the left, including somebody who has a degree in whatever he's got a degree in, that allows him to pass himself off as all things science, is that ultimately he just would not bring himself to say men are men, women are women, males are males, females are females, and there is a biological difference. And that is these people on the left. They just refuse to even acknowledge the truth. There's a 16-year-old girl that spoke for a school board meeting in Riverside, California, pleading with board members to protect girls' sports after a number of the girls have lost slots in the cross-country competitions to a boy who claims to be a girl. And there is a lawsuit by a number of the students against the high school because they were told by the athletic department school officials that girls standing up because they were wearing shirts that say Save Girls Sports, that was no different than wearing a swastika in front of Jewish students. This is what girls are facing today. Glenn Beck's next. I'm Nick Reed.